Hey guys, well, as you've seen on one of the previous videos here, I managed to harvest my first coyote, and though it was lucky, it was still a coyote. I was doing some small game hunting when I managed to jump a pair, and well, I'll let the video speak for itself there. You can watch the other show. Getting ready to go ahead and try to do a little preservation of the memory of the coyote, and the most economical way for me to do that here would be to just do a little skull mount. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've been working on a squirrel pelt here too. So it was kind of first timer at a lot of this stuff, so I'm just kind of learning as I go. So stay tuned, it could get interesting. This coyote was taken a couple weeks ago, and it's just been sitting in a stock pot. So it's going to be kind of nasty to work with, which is fine, doesn't bother me. But I am going to throw on a pair of rubber gloves here. I like to use these latex exam gloves. Doesn't really matter to me what the brand name is. I pick them up at Walmart, and you can use them for gutting deer and all different kinds of things that you really don't want to booger your hands up on. Sometimes these critters carry disease and whatnot. You know, you can make your own decision on that. Generally speaking, I will gut a deer with the gloves on, and then I'll throw the gloves in the cavity, and then get it in the truck, get it home, and then that way I can dispose of everything at the same time. But they're fairly inexpensive, and also you kind of save you from boogering up your steering wheel too when you're driving. I'm probably not going to show every little aspect of this, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm taking a skinner and I'm just going to strip it down as far as I can, and then I'm going to throw it in the pot here and let it boil, and then we'll just kind of repeat that process as long as we can, as far as we can, and then eventually it'll get to a point to where I'll have to apply a different method to strip it down even more. But I've done some deer skulls like this before, and it worked out pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. Probably just start taking off the ears first. It's going to be interesting to see where the shot was, because pretty sure it was just a good old-fashioned headshot, which I feel like I actually got pretty lucky on, really. Well, like I say, it's been sitting there a few weeks, and a lot of this tissue's gotten pretty hard, so I'm gonna go ahead and fire up the pot over here on the propane camp stove and let it boil a little bit. Go ahead and get this water going here. Get it to boiling, and then we'll get our coyote head in there and start softening up some of the meat so it's easier to strip off. A little too much water. Oh well. Scoop some of it out here. Yeah, we'll let it sit there and come to a good boil here and soften that meat up a little bit, make that hide a lot easier to get off of there. Now we'll just go ahead and get it over there on the table again and keep shaving on it. Continue the process until we can get most of it off, and then we'll move on to scrubbing it down in the sink. Okay guys, I didn't get a chance to finish the process here yesterday, but it was just as well because now I have a chance to transfer the remaining portion of it upstairs into the kitchen. Now, one word of caution when doing this sort of thing in the kitchen. I'm sure you guys who are married are way ahead of me on this one, but don't leave a mess. Don't use your wife's good pots and pans. This is an old pot here. Scrubbing devices and things like that, make sure it's old stuff you've cleaned up real well before you bring it up into your kitchen. We got some Ajax bleach alternative good stuff here. Go ahead and use it to clean up the sink when I'm done, and similar products to give the countertop a good scrubbing. But we've got most of the flesh off of the jawbone, which has already been removed, and the top portion of the skull there. And I'm letting it sit in here boiling. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually continuing the same type of process. I'll go to the sink, I'll take that fillet knife, and I'll continue to work away at the flesh that's remaining on the skull and the jaw. And the toothbrush and the scrubbing device here will come in handy in that regard too. And then when I'm done, I fill up the sink with hot soapy water and scrub it even more. And one thing I will tell you is I've noticed, I've never done a coyote head before, but on the deer heads, there's the hole there in the back of the head. The toothbrush seems to fit in a little bit better, so I may end up having to get a smaller toothbrush to go in the hole of this coyote here in the back of his head. But you want to make sure you get all that brain matter and everything scoured out of there real good too. So I'm going to go ahead here and get after it. Since we have two portions here, we got the jawbone, and then we've got the main portion of the skull. We can be whittling away at one while we're letting the other one boil. So I'll go ahead and get this guy transferred over to the sink here. Pretty hot to the touch, so be careful. I just kind of start peeling away some of this matter here, this flesh that's on here. Like I said, it almost works better if you got yourself a little glove, or you just let it cool off just a little bit. But like I say, that toothbrush comes in handy too. Be careful to not make real hard swipes, because you'll end up cutting yourself. You can use your fingernail, and like right in here, this is some pretty solid stuff here, right around the eye area. And like I say, the idea is basically to just kind of go back and forth between the two pieces until you are satisfied that you've got the flesh removed. And then we'll go ahead and start working on our jawbone here. I'm not going to show you every little bit of this, but I think you get the idea. Alright, it's been about an hour since I tossed that jawbone there in the sink. And you can see I'm making some progress. Here's something I'll point out now for you guys who are interested in how I took this animal. How about that for a headshot? I'd say you're looking at the entry wound there, and then I'll show you what a good side ought to look like. Now we'll flip it over. I would say the exit wound was right up in there in that eye cavity. Clobbered him good, didn't I? Make sure you get in between the teeth and everything real good. I can take this guy to the dentist here. He's not looking so good. Let's try to get out all that cartilage and all that stuff that's gonna cause smells and whatnot over the years that you keep this. one of the issues that I've had in the past after I've boiled this, jawbones of deer and whatnot, is that this piece right here, the two pieces will snap apart, and right in here is where they're held together. And if that happens, it's really a matter of just kind of filling that area up with some Elmer's glue and letting it set overnight. Works out pretty good for me. Keep whittling away at it here. Alright, we'll go ahead and get the jawbone back in there. Just keep working around here till we get her done. I like to kind of let this brain cavity drain out here before I drag it across the sink or the countertop for the most part. Like I say, I'm going to wipe it all down later on. Starting to look pretty good. It just takes a while to loosen all this stuff, because it's really on there. Working kind of toward that color right there, of course. That's looking pretty good. Starting to get loose enough to where I can kind of pick around the teeth, and that stuff just kind of comes off a whole lot easier now. One thing you guys may appreciate knowing is that the more of this tissue that you take from the animal around the gum line and the palate of the mouth, roof of the mouth, what have you, it will loosen these teeth. The teeth will come out. And the big ones aren't that big of a deal, but the small ones, unless you're a dental student, you may not know exactly how these go back in. So be careful with that when you're doing them, when you're working with the teeth and everything. And at this point, I probably will, when I put the head back into the boiling water, I'll probably put it like this, and hopefully the bubbling will not loosen the teeth to the point to where they'll come out. But I don't know, maybe these two teeth right here will be the only ones I'll have to worry about as far as direction. The rest of them look like you'd be able to figure out pretty easily. But anyway, it's just one of those small details I thought I might point out to you. Takes a lot of time to get that cartilage and everything off of there. There's some of the teeth that came out in the process. Just make sure you hang on to them and you don't wash them down the drain. Especially those bad boys right there. Those are the front ones. Big old fangs. And I went ahead and changed the water. It was getting pretty frothy looking. May help with the cleansing process. I don't know. Now guys, I know this is a tiring process, but it's pretty fun, to me anyway. But if you kind of get tired of working away at it, just stay with it, because I think it's important to get it as clean as possible before we put it in the soak over here, in the dish washing soak.
And I'm not going to take the final step. A lot of guys will bleach it, but I just kind of like that rustic look.
Alright guys, a few days have transpired here, and I wanted to give the items here a chance to dry out completely before I started gluing the teeth back in. And like I said, the parts have a tendency to kind of come apart, which makes sense with all the loosening of the cartilage and the gum matter and whatnot around the teeth. It's going to loosen all those bones and everything up real good. Essentially, all there is left to do, if you're going to do what I like to do with these type of mounts, is more or less just set them on a shelf or on my desk or what have you, is to apply some glue in certain areas to kind of hold things together. And I like this stuff here. I kind of like to keep it simple and inexpensive. It's a Elmer's glue all product that I picked up a few years back, and I've used it for a few dough heads and whatnot. But every time I get these jaw bones scrubbed down really well and all the flesh and everything off of them, I end up losing the area right here, the tissue that holds that together. So really all I have to do is put some glue on there, and you can see that alright. Right in this area, apply some glue and wrap some rubber bands around it and let it sit, and probably run a bead across here, and then the same way on the bottom. I'll end up running, if I can get this together here for you, I'll end up running a bead across here when I get them together. I think you get the idea. Right in there. And these teeth will end up going back in the skull, of course, whichever side they end up going in there, and put some glue in there and set them down. And got a few other ones that are kind of loose. I just wiggle the ones on the skull, and if they're loose I put some glue in them. If I don't, I just leave them alone. And it's just going to end up setting on top of the jawbone like that, and I'll take and I'll write the information, like a quick date and the property that I happened to have harvested the animal on. And right here we were talking earlier about the bullet hole, but you can see that 22 bullet right there really well. I was walking along and I was trying out a new part of the property for some small game action, squirrels and rabbits, and I jumped a pair of coyotes, and it was a neat story. You'll have to watch the video on it. I didn't get the kill shot on video, but it was quick, and I was really amazed that I was able to walk that coyote up. That's something from what my buddies tell me is doesn't really happen, but the Lord blessed me with a opportunity there, a good memory of that, and something I could share with you guys. That's really about it. I'm not going to show the gluing process, but I will show a few pictures of the finished product here at the end. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your time in the outdoors, and happy hunting to you.